Have you ever made a snap judgment that felt absolutely 100% right, only to find out later it was completely wrong? Or have you ever wondered why you're so optimistic about your own plans, even when you've seen similar projects crash and burn? Well, today we're diving into the brilliant work of Daniel Kahneman to uncover these hidden glitches in our thinking. We're going to meet the two characters running the show inside our heads. One is a fast-acting hero, and the other a lazy but really powerful sidekick. And we're going to find out why they are constantly at war. All right, to get things started, let's jump right in with a puzzle. It's a pretty famous one, and it's specifically designed to mess with your intuition. So meet Linda. Linda is 31 years old, single, outspoken, and very, very bright. She has a degree in philosophy. Back in college, she was really passionate about issues of discrimination and social justice, and she also went to anti-nuclear protests. Okay, so you've got the picture. Based on that description of Linda, which of these two options feels more probable to you? Number one, Linda is a bank teller. Or number two, Linda is a bank teller and is active in the feminist movement. Just take a second, go with your gut. Which one feels more likely? You got your answer? Okay, if you picked number two, you are in very good company. A staggering 85% of university students chose the exact same thing. But here's the catch, and it's a purely logical one. Just think about it for a second. The group of all bank tellers in the world has to include every single person who is a feminist bank teller, right? That means the group of feminist bank tellers is just a smaller subset of that first, bigger group. So logically, option one has to be more probable. But our intuition just screams that the more detailed, more specific story is the right one. You know, this isn't just some fun little brain teaser. It actually pulls back the curtain on a fundamental conflict in how our minds work. Our intuition, that gut feeling, just completely steamrolled basic logic. And this one puzzle, well, it opens the door to understanding all sorts of systematic errors, or cognitive biases, that we all make every single day. So to explain this, Kahneman gives us this really powerful metaphor. He says to think of our mind as being run by two very different characters. He calls them System 1 and System 2. And honestly, thinking of them as actual characters, that's the key to unlocking why our brains do these strange but totally predictable things. So first up, you've got System 1. This is the hero of the story, or at least the star of the show. It's fast, it's automatic, it's intuitive. It's your gut reaction. And then there's System 2. Think of this one as the lazy sidekick. System 2 handles all the heavy lifting, the slow, effortful, logical thinking that takes real concentration. It's the part of you that consciously thinks things through and makes choices. You are using System 1 constantly, without even realizing it. It's what lets you instantly know someone's angry just from the tone of their voice. It's what spits out the answer to 2 plus 2. It's what makes you drive a car on an empty road without thinking about every single move. These actions are totally effortless, completely automatic. They're just the background processes that let us get through the day. Now, let's contrast that with System 2. Right now, try to multiply 23 by 78 in your head. You can actually feel your brain kicking into a higher gear, right? That's System 2. It's what you use to parallel park in a super tight spot or focus on one person's voice in a loud, crowded room. And crucially, it's what you use to exert self-control and stop yourself from saying something you know you're going to regret. And here is the absolute crux of it all. Using System 2 is expensive. It burns real mental energy. And because our bodies are hardwired to conserve energy whenever possible, System 2 is fundamentally lazy. It's always looking for an excuse to just let System 1 take the wheel. So when System 1 serves up a simple, plausible-sounding story, like it did with Linda, System 2 just kind of nods along, instead of doing the hard work of actually checking the logic. And that one dynamic, that's the source of almost all our mental glitches. Let's look at a perfect real-world example of this laziness in action. It's a bias pretty much everyone falls for, and it's called the planning fallacy. It's our baffling tendency to be wildly, wildly optimistic about how long a project is going to take, even when all the evidence points the other way. So Kahneman tells this personal story about a project he was on, developing a new curriculum with a team of other experts. They were making great progress, they felt really confident, and when he asked everyone for their best estimate, the consensus was, yeah, about 2 years. It seemed totally reasonable based on how things were going so far. But then Kahneman asked one of the curriculum experts on the team about other teams who had tried to do similar projects. The expert kind of sheepishly admitted that about 40% of them had just failed completely. And the ones that did succeed, It took them 7 to 10 years. So what happened to Kahneman's super confident team? It took them 8 years. Their inside view was just clouded by pure optimism, and it completely ignored the cold, hard statistical reality of the outside view. And that, right there, perfectly illustrates the planning fallacy. We get so focused on our own best-case scenario and our own abilities that we totally fail to consider the unknown unknowns. You know, the unexpected problems and delays that hit all those other projects. Our fast, intuitive System 1 tells us a simple, coherent, and exciting story of success, and our lazy System 2 just doesn't bother to check the stats. So, our intuitive System 1 is telling us these overly optimistic stories about the future. But what about risk? Let's explore another incredibly powerful glitch that shapes pretty much every decision we make about money or our careers. It's called loss aversion, and it explains a very simple but profound truth. For our brains, the pain of losing feels way, way more intense than the pleasure of winning. So let's try this for ourselves. Imagine a simple coin toss, a 50-50 bet. If it's tails, you lose $100. Got it? Now, what's the minimum amount of money you'd have to win on heads to make you want to take that bet? Is it $101, $150, $200, $300? Think about it. What's your number? For most people, the answer is somewhere around $200. Now, logically, from a purely rational standpoint, anything over $100 should be a good bet. But that's just not how our minds work. And this reveals something really deep about us. The psychological pain of a potential loss is about twice as powerful as the pleasure of an equivalent gain. That fear of losing the $100 just looms so much larger in our minds than the excitement of winning. And get this, it's not just about money. A fascinating study of professional golfers found they are consistently more accurate when they're putting for par than when they're putting for a birdie from the exact same distance. So why is that? Well, a putt for par is a putt to avoid a loss, to avoid getting a bogey. A putt for a birdie is for a gain. The motivation to avoid that bogey is just psychologically stronger than the motivation to get the birdie. Okay, so if we're all just walking around with this fast, intuitive System 1 that makes us commit logical fallacies, totally underestimate projects, and fear losses way more than we value gains, what on earth can we do about it? How can we actually learn to think better? The answer isn't to try and get rid of System 1. I mean, we need it. It's what helps us navigate the world without having to think about every tiny thing. The real goal is something psychologists call metacognition, basically thinking about your own thinking. It's all about learning to recognize the signs of a cognitive mind field, a situation where your intuition is probably going to lead you astray, and then consciously forcing yourself to activate that slow, effortful System 2. So here's a practical little toolkit you can actually use. First, learn to recognize the signs. When you're facing a really high-stakes decision, that's a danger zone where these biases just love to pop up. So just tell yourself to slow down. Second, actively go looking for that outside view we talked about. Instead of just trusting your own gut, look at the data. What happened in similar cases? And finally, try this brilliant technique called a pre-mortem. Before you even start a project, just imagine that it's a year from now and it has failed completely. Then take 10 minutes and write down all the reasons why it failed. It's an incredible way to uncover risks you would have otherwise just ignored. And this really gets to the heart of the entire problem. Our System 1 is, above all else, a storyteller. It can take just a tiny shred of information and instantly weave it into this coherent, plausible-sounding story. And the better the story, the more confident we feel. But here's the dangerous part. A coherent story isn't always a true one. This means our feeling of confidence is often just an illusion. It's a side effect of a good narrative, not a reflection of reality. So the real takeaway here is this. Learning to think better isn't about getting rid of your intuition. It's about learning when to question it. So I'll just leave you with this question. What's one big decision you've made recently based almost entirely on a gut feeling? And what might have changed if you just paused, taken a breath, and asked your lazy but very powerful System 2 for a second opinion?